Well, I'm back from the very first ever Colorado Festival of Horror, and I have got treasures. So it's true, as I mentioned in my last video, I attended the very first ever Colorado Festival of Horror over this past weekend. If you weren't there this year, you really need to make it out next year. It was a great con. I am blown away by what they did for their very first year. If this is as good as they did on year 1, I can't wait to see what they do in year 2 and year 3 and year 4 and onward into the future, because this was a blast. Over the course of the weekend, they had tons of great events. They had movies, including Q&As with the directors and some of the cast and crew. They had a magic show. They had a costume contest. They had a great dealer's room, and I'm going to be showing you some of the treasures I got from there. There were opportunities to do meet and greets with some of the stars from horror movies, some of the horror authors. Basically, if you like anything to do with the horror genre, they had something for you. And I like pretty damn close to everything to do with the horror genre, so they had a ton of stuff for me. But now that I'm back, it's time for me to poke through all the stuff that I brought home with me, and I figured I'd turn the camera on and show y'all what I got. In part just to show off some of the neat stuff, in part maybe to give you some ideas of things that you might want to go out and look for, but also to convince you that maybe this is a con you want to attend next year. So rather than a traditional play-by-play sort of con report, I'm going to go through all of those things that I brought back and use those as an opportunity to discuss all of the various things that they had. And I assure you, I'm not even scratching the surface. They had tons of great stuff for everyone. But without further ado, let's get right to it. As you can see, the very first thing I purchased as soon as I walked through the door is the Colorado Festival of Horror t-shirt. When you go to a con, you get the t-shirt. I got the t-shirt and I've put it on. Next, let's look at some of the assorted little things that I've picked up. This little bag is also from the festival merchandise booth. These are some pins that I got. This is the Inaugural Colorado Festival of Horror pin. This one is only available this year, so sorry to say y'all missed out on this one. But I also got the Walking Coffin pin and the Colorado Festival of Horror logo pin. These presumably will be continued from year to year. And let's see, we have a t-shirt. Which one is this? This is the It Wants Blood t-shirt. This is a movie t-shirt. This is a James Balsamo film. It's a lovely t-shirt. I'm pleased to have gotten that. They actually gave me this free because it turns out I was the first customer to purchase the DVD, or the Blu-ray rather, which is just over here. Here is the Blu-ray of It Wants Blood, signed by the director and some of the other cast and crew. Haven't seen it yet, but it looks like an awesome movie. It just came out this year from Acid Bath Productions. And my understanding is that the premise of this film is that two monsters are running against each other for political office. So this should be a lot of fun. Let's see what else comes out of the little bag of goodies. Oh, yep. Here was my badge for the weekend. I can put that on, I suppose. And here's the program. Yep, full of all of the assorted stickers I picked up from the various booths. I forgot I'd tucked those in there. Set all of those to the side. So this is just the program, but just to give you an idea of many of the people who were there, guests of honor included Brink Stevens, Brian Bonsall, Zach Howard, Ed and Marcia Edmonds from Distortions Unlimited, Xander Smith was one of the artists, Brian Bonner from Rocky Mountain Paranormal, who, by the way, you'll be hearing probably more about on this channel for reasons that I'm not discussing yet. Christopher Mim is a filmmaker, Jimmy Lee Combs, also a filmmaker, lots of people. Victoria Price, daughter of Vincent Price, was attending virtually. She couldn't make it out for the convention in person, but she gave a panel virtually. Laureen Landon was there. Lots of great stuff going on. So even the program is kind of a treasure as a walk down memory lane of a good weekend. What else do we have? we have socks. Yes, somebody in the dealer's room was selling socks, so I couldn't help but pick some up. I have this one that has a bat on it. This is a magician sock. Not really a horror thing, but since I am also a magician, I kinda had to. Didn't really have a choice there. And this one has death on it. My socks seem to develop holes rapidly, so I'm always on the lookout for something else to cover my feet with. That was terrible grammar. Something else with which to cover my feet, I should say. Here's a little wristband I picked up to advertise the Terror Tales movie. And incidentally, I also have this poster signed by, again, various members of cast and crew from Terror Tales. Now, some of you may be familiar with Terror Tales. It's available on Amazon and elsewhere. But this Terror Tales Redux, as advertised here on the poster, was a director's cut of Terror Tales that premiered at the con with a Q&A following the screening. Then I also got this little thing in the dealer's room. This is a hand-painted tiny little chess set. So small it has tweezers for picking up the pieces. You can maybe get a sense of just how small those tiny little pieces are. But nice little chess set, and if I tuck the pieces out of the way, and you can also see it has a nice little image of a lot of the classic monsters and horror movie characters. So as a horror fan and a chess nerd, I couldn't help but pick up this little travel chess set. And now with that first little goodie bag out of the way, let's talk about the movies I brought back with me from the con. I already mentioned Terror Tales and It Wants Blood, but as you can see, there are plenty more. Beginning with this. This was the prize that I won in the charity raffle. This is called the Ghost Night Basket. This is a complete movie night featuring ghosts. So let's just open this up and see what's inside. I actually know most of what's in it already, but I haven't opened it up yet, so I don't know everything. So of course the most important things in the basket are the movies, and this features Apparition, Ghost Hunter, and The Changeling, which is actually why I dropped my raffle ticket in this basket, because I needed to have a copy of one of my favorite horror movies of all time, The Changeling. If you haven't seen it, you really need to see The Changeling. It's one of the best. But in addition to these three great ghost stories, these three great ghost movies, it also has a packet of popcorn and a little basket full of movie candies. So everything you need for a ghost story movie night. I also love the basket. It has a little spider on it. The basket itself looks like a spider web. I have no idea what I'm going to use the basket for, but I'm going to find some use for it. This was a great prize from the raffle. And speaking of prizes, one of the great things about this con was they gave prizes just randomly to people who attended the various panels. I got a couple of them, and one of them, this, I've not seen it yet, but it just looks like a treasure. This is Zombarella's House of Horrors. Notice that horrors is spelled W-H-O-R-R-O-R-S. So this is going to be a blast to watch. Again, not seen it, but I like it already. And then one of the highlights of the con for me was the opportunity to meet none other than Brinke Stevens, and I picked up a few of her movies. I have Edgar Allan Poe's Haunting Fear. This was a movie that came out, I want to say in the early 90s. Could have been the late 80s, but I want to say closer to 1990, 1991. Let's see if it says on the back. Yeah, 1990. So this was a 1990 movie, and it had never gotten a Blu-ray release until quite recently. This version came out, and I understand a fairly limited release, so I don't know if you're going to find a copy of this or not. I hope you can if you're looking for one. In any case, this is a signed copy, a signed Blu-ray of Edgar Allan Poe's Haunting Fear. This is actually based on the Edgar Allan Poe short story called Premature Burial. A nice fun thing here, this also comes with a little Brinke Stevens trading card, which she also signed for me, so that's a nice little treasure as well. In addition to that, I got autographed copies of a couple other movies, Apex Predators and Mrs. Claus. These are more recent Brinke Stevens films. I haven't seen either of these yet. I've seen much of her work, but I'm looking forward to trying both of these and looking forward to rewatching a classic from the early 90s. And speaking of autographed movies and filmmakers who were in attendance at the con, one of the attendees was Christopher Mim, who primarily makes movies that are meant to sort of recapture the magic of the 1950s creature features. So I got some of his movies. I have here Queen of Snakes. This is a double feature, including It Came From Another World and The Giant Spider. This is another double feature, including Destination Outer Space and Where's Skeeto, Nazi Hunter. This is The Monster of Phantom Lake, the musical. This was a stage musical adaptation of one of his movies, and they filmed the stage production, so this is the stage production. This also is The Monster of Phantom Lake, the musical. This is the original cast recording album. And because I got all of those, he also threw in this little DVR of the late night double feature, which I'm not sure exactly what's on it, but I'm looking forward to checking this out. One of the companies selling things in the vendor's room was Vinegar Syndrome, who specialize in producing Blu-ray re-releases of older horror films, primarily from the 80s, I believe, that haven't yet had Blu-ray releases, so I picked up a couple of their things. I have not seen either of these films, but they both look awesome. This one is Cthulhu Mansion, which I understand features a sort of bizarre magician character, and since I do magic myself, I couldn't resist trying this one out. And then I also got a copy of Spookies, which I understand to be a sort of group of people using a Ouija board goes wrong kind of a story. But I'm told this one is really, really bizarre. And I like weird, I like bizarre, so it should be right up my alley. Then I also got this 10th anniversary edition of The Lost Skeleton Returns Again, the director of which was not in attendance, but this is nevertheless an autographed copy. Somebody in attendance just happened to be selling this, and I snagged it before anybody else could get their hands on it. Also in attendance were the local film production company Bizjack Flemco, which might just be the weirdest and perhaps most awesome name for a production company I've ever heard. But it wasn't the name of the company that caught my attention, it was the title of one of their movies. This movie, which is called The Misled Romance of Cannibal Girl and Incest Boy. Really? So I couldn't resist picking up a copy of this, and they signed that for me. I also got this, Ghetto Man in Hollywooden't, which is a sort of bizarre superhero film, as I understand. I haven't watched this one yet. And then their feature film, Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer. And because I got all of those, they signed those for me, and they also threw in this little poster of the feature film, which they also signed for me. So a lot of good stuff from Bizjack Flemco. And then there's this one, Syngenor, which stands for Synthesized Genetic Organism. This is a monster movie, as you can tell by the cover. Well, the guy in the monster suit was Kevin M. Glover, and he was in attendance at the con. So I have an autographed copy of the movie, as well as the autographed portrait of the monster. But in addition to being the guy in a monster suit, he's also done some other things. This is his 2-act play, The People vs. Frankenstein, which I haven't read, but it sounds awesome because this is Frankenstein/courtroom drama. I like monster movies and courtroom dramas, so I can't wait to read this. And then I also picked up one of his comic books. This one is called Monster Smash-Ups, which I understand to be the classic monsters. It mentions Dracula, Frankenstein, and more, but with a twist of some sort, so I'm interested to read that soon as well. So that's the movies done. Let's move on and talk about the books, beginning with the con-specific books, including It Came From the Multiplex, which is actually the con anthology. This one, much to my pleasure, includes a book plate with autographs from, I have not yet been able to figure out if this was all of the authors or just most of them. I'm still working on matching the squiggles to the names, but I will get it figured out. In any case, the book plate features autographs from at least most of the authors, and this should be a fun read in any case. This is from a local publishing company called Hex Publishing. And the con also put out this coloring book, the Colorado Festival of Horror Coloring Book Volume 1. Presumably that means there will be Volume 2 next year, Volume 3 the year after, and so forth. Hopefully that's a tradition that continues. I'm not even that big of a coloring book kind of guy, but it's nice to have a little souvenir like this. And this features art from a variety of artists, all in black and white, and if you want to, you can color them in, or I suppose if you're a collector, you can leave it exactly as is. I mentioned that it came from the multiplex, was published by a local company called Hex Publishing. They also have a variety of other books out, and I picked up some more of their anthologies. I have this, Nightmares Unhinged, 20 Tales of Terror. Should be a good read. I recognize some of the names of the authors. There are also some new authors I haven't read before, which is always exactly what you want from an anthology. You want a few names you know and trust, so you know you're getting something good, but you also want some unknowns, so maybe you can discover something new. That's sort of the point of an anthology as far as I'm concerned. So looking forward to that one. This one, they couldn't actually sell me. This is the StokerCon 2021 souvenir anthology for attendees of StokerCon. The story behind StokerCon 2021 is it was to be in Denver in early 2021. It went online this year instead, so StokerCon 2022 should be in Denver, but nevertheless they did hold StokerCon, even though it was in online format, which I didn't attend. But they also put out this souvenir anthology. Because it's a souvenir anthology for StokerCon, which by the way is where they give out the Bram Stoker Awards, because this was a souvenir anthology, this was not for sale, but they had an offer, because it was put out by Hex Publishing, that if you bought a couple of their other books, they would throw this one in as a free gift. I did buy a couple of their other books, and they threw this one in for me. Because this is the souvenir anthology for the convention surrounding the Bram Stoker Awards, there are a lot of big names of horror in this book. This is another treasure that I'm looking forward to digging into and reading. Another anthology is this one, Blood Business, Crime Stories from This World and Beyond. This is a flip-over sort of book. We notice on this side it says This World in red, and on this side it says And Beyond in red, emphasizing different words. And we also notice that the text itself flips over about halfway through the book. So an interesting little formatting thing, should be an interesting read. I also got Doorbells at Dusk, which I understand to be a Halloween-themed anthology. I'm always looking for a good Halloween-themed anthology. Looking forward to this one, in fact, perhaps a little sooner than some of the others, because it's becoming seasonally appropriate. This one is DOA 3. I understand this to be more of a splatterpunk, extreme horror kind of an anthology. I was warned about its extremity when I bought it, and I said, that's not a warning, that's an endorsement, so I bought it. The other thing that really drew me to this one are the names on the front. Ketchum, Little, Skip, McKenzie, Kaufman, McNee, Lee. I assume that means Edward Lee. There are a lot of brilliant authors in this book. This is a collection of, in many ways, the best of the sort of extreme horror subgenre. And flipping through the table of contents, I noticed plenty of other names that I recognize. Let's see, Hal Bodner's in this one, Wrath James White is in this one, so lots of good people, should be an excellent read. One of the authors in attendance was Sean Eads. This is a single author book called Trigger Point, and this, again, of course I haven't read, this is a new book for me, but I understand it to be a serial killer story, sort of a serial killer detective. I'm not sure if it emphasizes more of the killer or more of the detective. We shall find out. In any case, the author was there, so I got, there it is, personalized inscription there. And in fact, all of these are autographed, not by every author in them, because not all of the authors in all of these anthologies were present, but those who were present were more than happy to scribble an inscription into these books. Then in a different part of the dealer's room, I happened across a gentleman named Brad Weissman, who also actually delivered one of the panels or one of the lectures that I attended, and it was fascinating, and it was about this book, which he has written, called Lost in the Dark, A World History of Horror Film. So he goes back to the very beginning of horror cinema, through the present, and he traces how the older films have influenced the newer films, how the cultures have borrowed from one another, and essentially traces the lineage of horror cinema from beginning to present. I've not read the book yet, but his lecture was fascinating, and I'm quite looking forward to reading the book. Presumably I'll learn about a lot more films that I should watch. In fact, if we just look at the filmography, where he lists the films that he discusses in the book, it is many, many pages long. So I'm looking forward to reading the book, and then I'm looking forward to spending an inordinate amount of time watching through all of these movies. In addition to novels and anthologies, I got just a couple of comic books. This one is called Billy the Kid. I don't really know much about this one, but flipping through, it looks like there are some great scenes of blood and guts and gore, so it should be a fun read. In any case, the artist, Barry McLean Jr., was present, and he kindly autographed this for me, so I'm looking forward to that one. This one is odd. This is The Adventures of Brian and Baxter. I mentioned that Brian Bonner was one of the guests at the convention. He is from Rocky Mountain Paranormal. I've actually sort of thrown my hat in with them a little bit, so I'll be talking about that more, presumably, at some point. In any case, Baxter was the other guy who was sort of in charge of Rocky Mountain Paranormal a few years back, and they put out this funny little comic about their various adventures as paranormal investigators. And I should mention scientific paranormal investigators. They do not do ghost adventures, ghost hunters, that kind of thing. They do it properly. Then I also got this one, Alice Sin in the Day Room by Aaron Bordner. And I actually don't know much about this one either, except that it looks like an interesting read, so I picked that one up along with some of the other things. And now with books and movies out of the way, let's move on to Other, the miscellaneous category of just all the other stuff that I picked up. The first is this. It's called Zombie Goo. It's kind of a toy. Now, I mentioned that in many of the panels they gave away prizes just as a thank you for attending, and this was one of those, which I haven't actually opened up yet. I'm going to do that now just to see what this actually looks like. So, it's this sort of runny, goo-like hand and this little bottle of zombie goo. So we just assemble it like so, stick them together, and then it's just a zombie goo hand with a almost like a toothpaste tube sort of thing that it's dripping out of. It's not from anything in particular, it's just a fun little toy, sort of a desktop decoration. I like it though. It's whimsical. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, but it's a little treasure. Again, it was a free gift, so I will treasure it and I will find a place for my zombie goo. Here are a couple of things from people who weren't in attendance, but these are sort of treasures or memorabilia that somebody who was in attendance happened to be selling. Here's a particular treasure for any horror fan. This is Linnea Quigley's autographed makeup bag or purse or some kind of a bag. In any case, autographed by Linnea Quigley, who was not in attendance, but somebody who was in attendance was selling this, and I grabbed it because, of course I did. You can't say no to Linnea Quigley's autographed makeup bag. Similarly, Adrienne King from Friday the 13th was not in attendance, but somebody in attendance was selling this autographed photo. So I picked that up as well. It was actually the same person selling both of these things, and being me, I couldn't say no to either of those. So those are nice little treasures to add to my collection. And then there are these. I got both of these for a song in the silent auction. This is the Revel Monsters of the Movies Frankenstein model kit. Now the top of the box of this is open, unfortunately, but I peeked inside and the parts are all present and they're still sealed in the plastic, so this is a brand new, never assembled model kit. I have no idea whether I'm keeping this as a collectible or whether I'm actually going to build this thing. It's one of those things where I kind of want to preserve the value by keeping it in the box, but on the other hand, it feels like a model should be built. In any case, these things have been out of production for a while. They're not super rare, but they have been out of production for a while, and I got it for a song, like I said, in the silent auction, so a nice little treasure for me. Then also from the silent auction was this. Still in the shrink wrap, although I opened it up because I wanted to look inside. This is the Walking Dead board game. Again, silent auction, I got this thing for a song. I've not played this game, but I do like a board game. I love The Walking Dead, as you might have guessed, because I made my replica of Lucille several weeks back. In any case, I'm looking forward to trying the game. A nice little treasure. And finally, no con is complete without bringing home some two-dimensional stuff as well. First of those is this autographed photo from Brian Bonsall, who played Alexander Roshenko in Star Trek. That's Worf's son. Now, this was a horror convention. Star Trek is not horror, but I like Star Trek, and he did do some horror things, but it just seemed appropriate to get the Star Trek portrait, so that's the one I got. Also in attendance was Laureen Landon, and I got her autographed picture from Maniac Cop. So both of those will go into my little binder of autographed 8x10s that I've picked up throughout the years at various conventions. And then we have some art. I got this print from an artist named Diamond Star. I don't know why this one in particular speaks to me, but it's just a painting that I like, so I picked up this print. And then I also picked up this oil painting by an artist named Ken Kokoska. And this is called Resting Vampire. Again, as I said, it's an oil painting, and I just couldn't resist walking away with it, so I added this to my collection as well. Now I need to find a place to put this on the wall. So that's basically it. That's all I'm going to show you. I did hold back a couple of things, either for personal reasons or because, believe it or not, a couple of things are actually maybe even arguably too morbid for this channel, so I didn't show you quite everything, but I showed you most everything. And now that the con's done, I'm gonna file all of this stuff away, but basically all that's left is getting ready for Halloween. And on that subject, as we approach Halloween, this channel is also approaching 1,000 subscribers. We haven't quite got there yet, but we're almost there, and I've made it my goal to try to reach 1,000 subscribers before Halloween this year, 2021, and I would love your help in getting there. So do me a favor, click like on this video and or any of my other videos, leave me a note down in the comments. All of those things help get videos seen. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so and ring the notification bell so you catch up on all of my other stuff as it comes out. I do have a lot of great stuff planned. If you've already subscribed, consider telling a friend, share it, post it on your social media, either this video or the channel or one of my other videos. Anything helps. Like I said, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by Halloween. I think we can make it. If we don't make it, I'm going to keep making videos anyway. We'll get there eventually. But there would be something awesome about hitting 1,000 by our favorite holiday, Halloween. So do your best to help me get there, and you will have my sincerest thanks. My sincerest thanks also, regardless of anything else, just for watching this video. And, as always, take care and stay scared.